Welcome to the Progress Texas Happy Hour.
Welcome back to the Progress Texas Happy Hour. I'm Progress Texas Advocacy and Development Coordinator, Tatum Owens. Happy to be here. We've built a statewide audience and reach millions of Texans monthly, thanks to folks like you who invest in independent, progressive media by Texans for Texans. Our thanks to Holly Taylor, Bart Wilson-Ewald, and Marvin Hecker for their monthly support. Can't do it without y'all, so thank you. Texans can decide the 2026 midterm elections. We are at the forefront of attacks on our neighbors and democracy, and if early voting turnout is any indicator, Texans are fighting back. We want every one of our neighbors to be engaged in their democracy, from El Paso to Houston. And our guests today are here to share about a major organizing point for the year coming up in the next week. That's the Democratic County Conventions on March 21st, 2026. Of course, the Republican county conventions have already happened, but across the state, grassroots organizers, labor leaders, candidates, local clubs, and pro-democracy advocates will build momentum for November 2026, the big event this year. This represents a major organizing point to make progress and deliver wins for democracy, affordability, education, and healthcare, and the values that bring Texans together. On March 21st, 2026, Texans will gather coordinated midterm strategy and the road to electing leaders who will protect and strengthen our communities. So let's get started and welcome Jeff Hilton, Executive Director of the Harris County Democratic Convention, and Mary Higby, Vice Chair of the Collin County Democratic Party. Hey, y'all.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hi.
Glad to have y'all.
Thank you.
So the two of you are joining from two crucial counties to watch for major turnout, as well as attacks on democracy in turn. First, tell us about where you're joining from and the state of democracy, voting rights there. Jeff, would you start us off coming from the largest county and largest progressive base in Texas, in Harris?
Well, thank you, Tatum. Good morning. So I'm in Houston, which is, of course, the center of Harris County. I understand that Harris County is 27 to 30% of the Democratic vote in the state. And the reason I got involved with this was I was tired of losing. And last year I looked at what are we going to do to win the midterms? And so as a result, I sort of said, well, I can help. I can get involved with the convention. I can drive a big audience. I can do things. And that's really, to me, the convention is the kickoff to the midterms. And we have an exciting program, and I'm glad to share some details with you.
Yeah, and Mary, what about the state of voting rights in Collin County?
So historically, Collin County is kind of the flip side of Harris County, where we are definitely, and for good reason, we can be stereotyped as very red-leaning. And what we saw with early voting is that is changing. Collin County is the 6th largest county in Texas and the 37th largest in the country. We are also the largest county in America to have not yet turned blue, but that tide is shifting. That has an expiration date. And classic suburban battleground. We are fast growing. We are getting more and more diverse, and we're politically shifting right before everyone's eyes. We gain about 100,000 new voters every 4 years, and those demographics are moving in our direction. That being said, we see voter suppression and disenfranchisement at every turn, and Collin County put another layer on it by winding the clocks back and taking us back to hand-filled ballots. So instead of going and doing what most of us have done for a good portion of our adult lives of going and touching the screen, now you have a pen and you're filling in those bubbles like it's a Scantron.
I'm all for the age of technology and bringing things forward. And at the same time, I think maybe we're all a little bit glued to our screens, but not when it comes to our voting rights. I'd like to make sure that human error does not get in the way of my vote being counted, of my neighbor's vote being counted. And we know that it's a major issue with hand counting ballots, hence why we don't do that as much anymore unless a regressive policy has been put in place. So,
Right.
Jeff, do you want to talk a little bit about Houston voter suppression while we're on that note?
I do. Thank you. Yeah, it's so interesting. In the recent primaries, we had huge turnout, like across the state. And I spoke to the people who run our elections, and they were very pleased in that they weren't in the news for a change. The state has obviously threatened over and over to try to take over the Harris County elections. And so they conducted a really flawless election. And we see all kinds of suppression, obviously. The state is trying very hard to disenfranchise people. At a national level, we're seeing an initiative, of course, with their initiatives to make it that you have required proof of citizenship and other things. I think it's really incumbent on us. It's our responsibility and our duty to do everything we can to, one, push back against that, and two, as they do push regressive legislation, that we prepare our voters to overcome that.
On average, in Collin County, we get about 36,000 voters in primaries. This year, 95,000 people showed up to cast Democratic ballots. And we're so proud of every single one of those people who did show up, who filled out the stupid hand-filled ballot. And we want that momentum to carry us into not only our convention, but into the fall.
And that's why it's crucial that y'all have this opportunity to get so many people from across your counties together and prepare for this year where we know there are going to be major attacks on local voting populations. And would you also provide a little perspective on, I think it'd also be good to name Collin County is in North Texas. You can talk a little bit about some of the areas that involves, because maybe not every listener is aware of that. I hope that they would be, with the gravity of the situation. This is Ken Paxton's home. This is one of the crucial purple swing counties in the state.
Exactly. So Collin County is the first county to the north of Dallas County. It includes cities like Plano, where I live, McKinney, Allen, parts of Frisco. And we do have some very rural outlying areas that are getting more and more into suburbia with every person who moves here.
Yeah. And so I'll be super interested to see what Texans feel like after the county conventions, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk a little bit about what a county convention is in the first place. So, Jeff, would you start us off and tell us, what is business as usual county convention? What does that serve? Who attends?
Sure. So by default, the convention encompasses a combination of things. I kind of refer to this as the business of the party. There's rules and resolutions. There's committees which work on those. There's people who come who are often precinct chairs and congressional district chairs and other people. They work on all kinds of things, including nominating delegates to the state convention. So all that morning piece is, again, describe at the business of the party. And later on, I'll tell you about the other piece, which we have, which we're calling the entertainment portion.
Thanks for that perspective there. Absolutely. Things that you can expect when you attend a county convention would be that that normal business as usual, rules and delegations. These are engaged Democrats that you would expect to be there. And then we bring us to this current political moment where Texans all across the state turned out to the primary election voting sites and polling locations in historic numbers. So what do y'all expect to see going differently this year regarding the energy around the primaries and the state of our voting rights and so many other rights at stake? Mary?
I think what we're seeing right now is that people want to be involved in democracy as it stands now and helping to save democracy, where you can hear about a county convention and not really have any idea what goes into it, who can be a delegate, who can attend, why you should attend. And that's what we're really working on, is making sure that everybody knows anyone who voted in a Democratic primary is eligible to attend and participate as a delegate. If you didn't vote in the primary, you can still attend. We just ask you to sign an oath of affiliation to the Democratic Party. And as far as age goes, we say it every year, it's younger people who are really driving what's happening. And anyone who will be 18 by election day in November is eligible to attend. So we bring it on. We want to hear from people all over Collin County. mean, I'm sure the same goes for Harris County. I'm sure the same goes for every county. But it's a chance to be involved and to truly have a voice in shaping what the party looks like going forward and what's important to us and what we want to fight for.
Yeah. And Jeff, would you talk about what y'all are doing differently in this political moment for your county convention in Harris?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to echo exactly, but not echo, but amplify what Mary said. That's exactly right. We want people involved. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of enthusiasm. And so we decided, and as I alluded to earlier, we have sort of the morning portion, which is the business portion. So we decided to make a really top line afternoon portion. And this is critical. Over the last year or so, we've heard people bemoaning the results of the previous election. And a lot of people saying, well, how do I get involved? What do I do? And I always get frustrated when people say they're unhappy, but they're not taking action. So we thought about, well, what can we do? First and foremost, we decided to create and get a whole bunch of really exciting high-level speakers. And so our afternoon session looks something like this. We've got about an hour and a half of great speakers, people like Beto O'Rourke, Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project, and surprisingly, Adam Kinzinger. And a lot of people say, wait a minute, aren't they Republicans or former Republicans? And the answer is yes, but they're totally on our side and they totally want us to win. And they're very motivating speakers. And of course, we have all the local candidates and politicians and also the state party chair, Kendall Scudder, the local party chair, and a bunch of others. So we want to fire people up with that rally, as we're calling it, that portion. But we also have a lot of on-ramps. We want people to take action. So we've got a whole bunch of workshops, breakout sessions, and booth exhibitors, which are ways for people to specifically get engaged and get involved and to take action. Whether it's joining a group, whether it's participating with donating. We have sessions on precinct chair recruiting. We have sessions on becoming a voter registrar. We have sessions on becoming an election workers. We have sessions around how to support judicial candidates. Roughly 50% of our ballot are judicial candidates. And we know a lot of people just skip over that because it's hard to evaluate. How do you know who's a good judge or good judicial candidate or not? So we're trying to really present a broad array, and I'm just touching the surface of the variety of topics and things that we're covering. But the way we're describing it is these are on-ramps. So the messaging is, now you're fired up, now go get involved, now take action. It's important that you do more than just say, I'm going to vote for the candidate I like. You got to support, you got to donate, you got to block walk, you got to make phone calls, and if nothing else, tell your friends about that candidate.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have a really exciting event put together with that high energy rally, pro-democracy speakers. I, for one, love a good breakout session. I think that there's so much learning and institutional knowledge that you have to gather from the people around you in your county party, in local clubs. And without it, it's a lot harder to get politically involved when you don't know where to start. So I think those breakout sessions covering progressive issues, democracy issues will be super crucial. God, that y'all are doing that, as well as the mix and mingle event. Getting people together and talking is a big part of this. We need to get connected. Mary, are y'all planning on doing anything differently in this political moment for Collin County?
So, Jeff, I have to say, I'm very jealous of your lineup. So in Collin County, we are really focused on making sure that people know that democracy is not an every 2 years or every 4 years show up at the polls, that it's a year-round ongoing effort. So with that said, and like I mentioned earlier, we want people to know that we welcome their involvement, that they are part of a large organization that's mission is to get Democrats elected. So we want people to get to know their neighbors, get to know their precinct chairs, get to know that precinct chairs exist. And if they would be interested in being a precinct chair, let's talk about that. This is a great way to really immerse yourself in what is going on at a local level and to find out specific ways that you can help. Because we've all had those moments of, how can I help? What can I do? And you don't know where to start. And attending your county convention is a great way to start. Even if you just pick up on one or two things that you feel you can do one or two things that you can tell your friends about, learning about different candidates. It's a great way to get educated. And my perspective is that the more you know, the more you can do. So stop feeling helpless, come out to the convention and learn what you can do and take action.
Yeah, and let's be extremely clear. This is a democracy issue, and it's every other issue that you bring to the ballot as well. This is the environment. When you have the Republican Party in power for decades here in Texas that has enabled the oil and gas industry to have massive build out and every other issue that you can think of that is important to you as a voter, that is what you get to learn about when you go talk with local candidates, when you talk with other people involved in the community working on local advocacy work. So that's the county conventions, what we're looking at for March 21st this year. That's March 21st, whether you're in Collin, Harris, El Paso, no matter what, you've got a county convention in your state, feel free to join in. We'll have the links for these two over here. As we finish out, would you all tell us about what the path beyond March 21st looks like? Leading up to November, we know that Texas is at the forefront of the national fight to protect democracy against authoritarianism. And Governor Greg Abbott has specifically targeted Harris County voters. Collin County has been targeted time and time again. So what does the party work on beyond this? Mary, would you start us off?
So while the convention is extremely important, it's not the end. It's not the beginning. This is a key piece in the organization that we're building. And we are not just waiting for November to arrive. We are being proactive with massive get out the vote efforts and infrastructure, with huge block walking programs in every precinct, with phone banks and text banks to reach thousands of voters, and coordinated efforts with campaigns up and down the ballot. We are so committed to working with our local candidates. We support them in every way we can, from taking time to meet with people who think that they might want to run for office but aren't entirely sure what goes into that. And we have gotten some absolutely amazing candidates. We met with one candidate for Justice of the Peace back in August, I think. He's 18 years old. He is a freshman in college, and he felt the calling, and he's like, I think I want to do this. And after we had thrown everything at him about, well, this could happen and you'll have to do this and you'll have to do that, and do you still feel good about this? What percentage are you on this? And he was like, I'm 100%, because I'm 18, and if I don't start now, am I going to start? So we're super excited for him and for all of our other candidates who have really put it out there, put themselves out there to say, hey, here I am. Let's make this work.
Yeah.
We've also got a huge focus on voter registration. As I mentioned earlier, with 100,000 new people moving to Collin County every 4 years, it's crucial that we get those people registered to vote and to make sure that they know to check their voter registration, because don't know how it happens, but sometimes voters just poof off the voter rolls. Isn't that weird? So to make sure that they're empowered to know that you register to vote and you can vote, make sure that you're always able to vote. And we're focusing on building our organization, building our resources, with 3 main priorities in our messaging: to protect our schools and communities, to fight for affordability, and to fight for democracy for all.
So again, I love those descriptions Mary just gave, because those are clearly high-level initiatives. When we organized this event, and we started last June or so, we thought about what are the key sort of more operational goals we're trying to achieve. And so there's a few in particular. One phenomena that we know about is described as the undervote. People vote for the top of the ticket, and then as you get further down the ballot, there's a lot of drop-offs. Our primary ballot was stupidly long. I think it was like 113 races. And again, it's very difficult, and many people, just get frustrated. They don't know what to do, especially when it's some of the state level offices, some of the county level positions. And so getting people through that as well as the large number of elections that we have, really gets to be a challenge. So reducing the undervote is a key goal going forward. We're also, again, I alluded to judicial candidates. Again, it's a real big issue. We want to elect Democratic judges. We know there was a big push in the last election to essentially, if you don't like crime, get rid of Democratic judges. But some of these judges are family court judges. Some of them do probate. Some of them do juvenile stuff. Some of them are civil court judges. So many of them have nothing to do with crime. And so we want to educate people and encourage that and go forward on that. And another major initiative has to do with precinct chairs. Precinct chairs and captains there's a big gap. We have over 1,000 precincts. I don't remember the exact number, but a large percentage of them don't have a chair or a captain. And so that's why recruiting, getting people involved in that process and having people sign up to be chairs and captains going forward and giving them the training and the tools and the resources, and also connecting the dots between them and their neighbor to help make life easier. One of the things we always talk about is if you're a precinct chair in one geography, get to know the adjacent one. So instead of trying to organize block walks all by yourself, get with them, collaborate. We have other tools and resources to help drive additional volunteers to that and makes life a lot more bite-sized and a lot easier. So those are our three big initiatives from a successful outcome in getting people involved in voting and hopefully achieving those outcomes so that we win in November.
Perfect. There's power in numbers. Super excited to see what those numbers look like after the conventions too. And as we finish out, are there any final thoughts, resources, calls to action for our listeners to get involved?
I'd like to throw out a couple of things just real quickly. So first of all, at last time they did the convention in the county, there was a little under 600 people attended. We also wanted to make that an issue. I currently have a little bit over 1,800 people signed up. Now, of course, some won't show. People will show who didn't sign up, but let's figure we'll get hopefully 1,500 or so, maybe more. There's still opportunities for people to sign up to attend. Our tool is harrisdemconvention.com, and there's a registration link. We've got to go through the process of credentialing so we know who's eligible to be a delegate and who's eligible to be a visitor or a guest. But we think that the numbers are exactly what you said. This is what counts. Starting with a big number coming into the sort of top of the funnel, giving them tools, resources, and motivation to get involved. We want people to take action based on what fits their needs. Not everybody wants to block walk. Not everybody wants to make phone calls. Not everybody has the resources to make donations. So we want a big variety of ways for people to say, this is something I can do. This is something I will do. And I love the point, again, I keep alluding to what Mary's saying. It's great. Not feeling alone, feeling like I'm part of something and I'm not out here in the wilderness by myself, even though sometimes it looks like that when you see a sea of red, when you look at the state map. But clearly there's big pockets of strong Democratic areas, and we're going to win in November.
And Mary, any final calls to action or final thoughts for the audience?
I think it's important to note, as you know, we've mentioned several times, that if you're a Democrat in Collin County, you are not alone. I can tell you that my precinct in primaries was 59% Democrat. And I mean, yes, we're in the southern part of Collin County. So I call it, we get like some of the Dallas leak over. But it's not impossible. Everybody has to show up and do their part. You know, democracy doesn't exist if you're not involved. And while it can be scary to get involved, there is a place for you. There is a way to get involved, even if that is phone banking once a month, if that is keeping candidate signs at your house so your neighbors can pick them up without having to drive to the county party office, if that is making sure that your neighbors are able to get to their polling sites, if you offer them rides. There are so many ways to get involved, and know that you're not alone, and that if you take the step and reach out, if you step up, somebody else will see you doing that, and you can be the person who gets another Democratic vote out there.
Yeah.
And we are all in this together. This is a group project, and nobody gets to sit on the sidelines. We really can't do it without everybody chipping in.
Yeah. What is it? The Washington Post, or I think that's their line. Democracy dies in darkness. And it's the time to invite people into the light, right? Like everybody.
Yes.
Now is the time to jump in and stand up for your neighbors, stand up for all of the values important to you.
So something I thought of, Jeff, when you were talking about voting the whole ballot, I was kind of geeking out over data a couple of weeks ago. And there were, I think, 103,000 Republican votes in Collin County. So very exciting to have the 95,000 Democratic votes. But there were so many top of the ballot races that did not get voted on in the Republican primary. So seeing that, I don't know if they're looking at the ballot saying, I don't care who's governor, or if they're looking at the ballot saying, these are all awful choices. I'm not going to choose anyone for governor, AG, or lieutenant governor. Where I think it was for lieutenant governor, there was about a 7,600 undervote on the Republican ballot, which means that if that ardor continues, it may just be the fact that they don't like their choices. And, as you said, Tatum, come into the light. Come on over.
Thank you, Jeff Hilton, Mary Higbee, for joining us today. So glad to have the both of you on. And this is, of course, only one point to organize with your neighbors throughout the year. There will, of course, be the May municipal elections, the May runoffs, another convention down the line in Corpus Christi. That's the State Democratic Convention, June 25th through 27th. That's a huge event where people come from all over the state. It's kind of the follow-up to these county conventions. And we'll see what the next couple of months look like ramping up to then. Thank you again for joining us. Progress Texas is an independent nonprofit and rapid response media organization. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. Please support our peerless work and check out our always open Texas Union-made web store. Thanks for listening, and share the episode with a friend.